my new 5th grade teacher. Taylor was excited about school starting up again. She had enjoyed her summer, going on vacation with her family and stuff, but was really looking forward to being with her friends. The Friday before school started, she was going to learn who her new 5th grade teacher would be. She knew from asking around that she wanted to avoid Miss Langley. She was apparently strict, and Taylor didn't like strict. Every few seconds, Taylor checked her email. Nothing yet. She was getting frustrated. Taylor was very computer savvy and tried to teach her mom how to use a tablet, but she just didn't get it, and it left her pretty much alone. She relished going into chat rooms and recently had made a new friend who gave her the nickname Lovey. It was some sort of British term of affection. The friend was her age, 10, and from England, and she had to explain to him what 5th grade was. He used words such as lift instead of an elevator, and would talk about people queuing up rather than lining up. She thought this rather fun, and one day when she got older, hoped to travel over to England too. They shared a lot, and she told him how much she wanted to avoid Langley. She had gotten a message from her school. She eagerly moved the mouse down to scroll to see what name it was. Please, please, not Miss Langley. Her eyes scanned along the stuff that wasn't important until it got to Mrs. Her eyes lit up and her smile widened, as she knew Mrs. was not a miss. And if it wasn't a miss, she didn't have Miss Langley.
Yes!
Suddenly, dread surged through her brain. What if Miss Langley got married over the summer and was now a Mrs.? Nah, no one would marry her. Her eyes lunged across the page. Green. Mrs. Green. She sat back with a huge smile on her face. OMG. I didn't get Miss Langley. 5th grade was gonna be awesome!
Mom!
Where was she? Taylor wanted to use Mom's phone to call her friends. Mom must be outside, she thought, as her eyes locked upon the phone at the nearby table. She snatched it up. She tried her best friend Susan first, but the phone just rang and rang. On to the next one.
Who do you have?
They didn't know yet. No one knew. About 20 minutes later, as Taylor was making herself a sandwich, the phone rang. It was one of her friends. She sounded numb.
Who do you have? Langley.
Taylor felt bad. The phone kept ringing. It was the rest of her friends.
Langley. Langley.
No one had Mrs. Green. No one was in her class. This wasn't good. A name popped up on the phone display. It was her best friend, Susan. Please, please, please have Mrs. Green.
Who'd you get?
Langley, how about you?
Green.
Taylor was nearly tearful.
Well, at least you didn't get Langley. Who's Green?
No idea.
Later that night, Taylor checked her email. Strangely, she had another letter from the school. It was another teacher assignment. Her eyes scanned it quickly. It said she was in Miss Langley's class. No! This must be a joke, a mistake. How is this possible? She was in Mrs. Green's class. She deleted the email. The next morning had come and Taylor was dropped off at school. As always, her mom had to rush off to work, but it being the first day, there were lots of parents there and it was really chaotic. Taylor was tired as she'd been online all night chatting with her friend in England who called her Lovey. Her eyes scanned the playground and she saw a miserable line of girls standing by Langley's classroom. From behind, she heard a familiar voice. She turned to see her friend Susan there.
At least you didn't get Langley.
Yeah, I know.
Taylor looked down at the printed piece of paper.
Room D7. Where's that?
D7? No idea. I didn't even know there was a D block.
D block is over there, across the field.
Said a bearded dad passing by. Taylor glanced to the field. Huh? She hated that field. That field was where PE was, and she didn't like the coach. He'd make her run and run and run, and she hated running. And now she had to walk all the way across that field. Ugh, I'd rather have Langley. Actually, no, not Langley. This is just fine, she thought. She chippered up. None of her friends were in her class, which meant she'd make some new ones. That could be good. So, after a little while, Taylor walked across the field, flanked mostly by parents who said goodbye to their kids and were heading out the gate. The old school was across the field. It had been abandoned and was run down. Taylor had heard stories that a boy once disappeared from it, but her mom had said that the school just needed to move on to a bigger space. As Taylor got closer to the building, she came across a rotting "Do Not Enter" sign. She looked at her paper. Yep, D7. Well, she looked around to see if there was anyone she could ask if she was in the right place, but there wasn't. I guess everyone had already gone in. Well, if she stayed there, she just might get in trouble for being late, so she pushed forward. She went up to a shabby classroom door and stopped to take in the windows. They were broken. She looked at the door, to a piece of paper just fluttering in the wind, and in a large Sharpie was D7. Yeah, she was in the right place. Really strange. She glanced in through the window and she could see the teacher with her back turned, pointing to a whiteboard. She had a long flowing white dress and long brown hair. I must be late. She pushed the door open and went in. Bizarrely, the classroom was empty.
Oh, hello. You must be Taylor.
Said the teacher, staring away from Taylor. Taylor nodded.
Sit down.
Taylor hesitated. Why was she the only student?
Sit down.
Came again, this time firmer.
Sit down!
She sat down.
I hear you like going on the internet.
Taylor nodded, confused, not knowing how Mrs. Green knew.
It's a dangerous place, but I've enjoyed our conversations. Lovey.
The teacher slowly turned around. She had a beard. Wait, that's not a woman, that's a man. It was the bearded man who told her where the classroom was.
I'm Mrs. Green. Welcome to my classroom.
At recess, Susan looked around for her friend. Susan had survived Miss Langley's class and turned out not to be that bad. Those horror stories turned out not to be so true. Every recess, she and Taylor would always play together. But this recess came and went and Taylor never showed up. In fact, she was never seen again.